So what is Ashes of Creation and what has it promised to deliver? Well, it's gonna be a PvX system, which they say is a player versus player, including player versus environment. Both communities are going to have to rely on each other to achieve success in the game. You're going to have multiple different classes, of which there are 64 in total, where you essentially choose 2 of the 8 base classes to combine them to get a certain class. Like start with tank, level up, and then choose cleric, and I'm now a paladin. There'll be lots of different races you can choose from, player housing, crafting, and ultimately a unique node system. When players earn experience in a given area on the map, that experience will be contributed to that node, and that will add up and essentially create an encampment, which is going to level up through village, town, city, and each time that node levels up, it unlocks new resources, new content in the area of that node. For example, bosses will spawn, raids will trigger, dungeons will unlock, new storylines, etc. So it really becomes a game that's going to change depending on what server you're on. Every few weeks, if not days, the world around you is going to change. You can travel to a different area, a different settlement, experience different communities, different content. But basically, each node can level up. But player versus player comes into play when you cannot develop your node because you have to downgrade adjacent nodes. Not every settlement can become a metropolis. So if an adjacent node is hindering your progress, you may have to go and lay siege to it with massive PvP battles. If the attackers win, they'll downgrade that settlement and be able to loot them. So ultimately, you're going to have it pretty tied into guilds and players coordinating with each other on how they can develop. But there's no worry, you can always be a freelancer and hop between different nodes and just take advantage of what's there. You will have raids in this game where you're going to have to require lots of players partying up and coordinating with each other to beat content like you may have seen in other games. Most of the dungeons will be open world where you'll just enter in together. There'll be enemy spawns here and there, ultimately getting to your boss and beating them up. You will have player housing within the settlements, but you will also have freeholds where you have your own little set of buildings, your own little farm, or you can create a tavern or an inn, a hub area where people can come to you and make use of your services, ultimately earning you some extra currencies. Now the game will have a lot of PvP. The open world will be PvP based where, yes, anybody can go and kill each other as long as you're not partied up. You will have a caravan system where you want to escort a caravan from one node to another to export resources to aid you in developing your node. And players could ambush that caravan and take its resources. We're still not 100% sure how all these systems will work together, but ultimately, yeah, there will be quite the PvP focus there. That doesn't mean there won't be safe havens, that there won't be a lot of content for just PvE players. Players who just want to beat up the environment, who don't want to involve themselves in all that toxic PvP stuff. The world economy will be separated based on the node you're in. So each node will have its own economy, and thus that will entice players to move resources from one to another via the caravan system. For example, one resource could be much cheaper in one node because they have an influx of, let's say, deer, and thus the expense of deer hide will be significantly lower than if you were to go to another node that doesn't have any deer. And you'd need all those resources for upgrading buildings, for crafting, etc. So this game will try and appeal to the solo player, appeal to the PvP player, the PvE player, the crafter, the gatherer, and ultimately have a lot to offer. Keep in mind the game is very much still a work in progress. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and we'll see you guys around.